Somewhere beyond the recesses of time and space, two podcasters are set adrift in a machine, picking up transmissions of movies that are forgotten but not gone. Music. Welcome to Movie Memory Machine, the only podcast about forgotten movies that can move mountains with its mind. I am your host, Landon Solano, joined always by my co-host, Truman Capps. Truman, it's good to perceive you, see you. We're talking about telekinesis, not telepathy. So, I shouldn't have gone for a variation there. You know, I was going to say, I had a whole bit worked up about how it's bloody good to be seen, and I was like, that's going to be really on brand, but no, you had to go step in it with confusing telekinesis and telepathy. Sorry. I'm sorry. Look, and here we are. I'm bullying you right out the gate. So, that's got us more on track for the episode. Yet. I do have a very revealing and intimate question to ask you to start this episode. Are we in the shower right now? Is that why? What age were you when your parents had the talk with you? And you know the one I'm talking about, the talk about dirty pillows. The talk about dirty pillows. I think that I learned about dirty pillows first from Austin Powers 2, The Spy Who Shagged Me, when he says to Heather Graham, sorry, I got stuck in your dirty pillows. And so I guess yet, by the time my parents sat me down to talk about dirty pillows, I'd already learned about them from Mike Myers. That's the tragedy. Interesting. Yet. Do you think Mike Myers was inadvertently referencing Carrei and Stephen King when he said that? I am okay. At the time I was like, what a clever improvisation from that scamp Myers. And then when I a week ago watched the original Carrei in preparation for this episode, I was like, motherfucker. Mike Myers wasn't as clever as I thought. He was just ripping off Carrei. Well, there is an adage in improvisational comedy that you'll use everything you ever knew. And I think that was Johnny Carson that said that to Steve Martin. But there is there's nothing left unturned when you are trying to create stuff for comedy. So even if you aren't aware that you're referencing something, you're pulling from the recesses of your brain to make a connection. I'm just trying to think within the lore of the Austin Powers franchise. He was cryogenically frozen in 1969. He would have missed the 1976 release of Carrei. Did he? Yet, he could have read it. He could have. Well, the book came out in the 70s, but that doesn't mean it existed only in the 70s. Well, you can go to the store and buy it now if you wanted to. So you're saying that Austin Powers, international man of mystery, he has to defeat Dr. Evil. And yes, listeners, I know there's the sequence in the first movie where he catches up on everything that happened. He watches the moon landing and tries to play a CD on his record player. You're saying he also bought a copy of Carrei? Yet. Why not? Do you think that is Stephen King's most shagedlic novel? Wow. Now you're asking the deep questions here. Or is Austin Powers more of a Dark Tower guy? I'll reveal my hand here in that I brought up the dirty pillows conversation because I want to start the conversation about Stephen King. Oh. And I'm happy to answer your Shagadella question. But before it gets too far away from the initial intention here, there is okay. Wow. I don't want to start this episode here, but I'm just gonna flirt with it. I'm gonna be very, very careful. I'll be on my best behavior. I have similar problems with Stephen King that I do with Tarantino. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Taking the men for who they are, I would much rather spend time and appreciate Stephen King than Tarantino. However, it comes down to their fandoms that they have very similar kind of toxic fandoms that treat each of them as gospels. Have you heard of this? Have you ever seen any evidence of this? Have you ever heard of this gospel? I don't know. I guess I just haven't I'm a Stephen King fan. I like a lot of his books and I aggressively dislike a lot of his books and I take such joy normal human being. Yet. Well, I mean, it's just like I think that anybody who says that every Stephen King work is an infallible work of genius should be locked up. Some of them are truly works of genius. And some of them are like, I don't know, man. I guess I'm glad you got paid, but this makes no sense. And you wrote it right after writing one of my favorite books. I don't know what was going on that week. Yeah, exactly. There, I'll tell you what cocaine was going on that week. Well, no. Some of these are recent ones. Like, yes, there's some books from the 80s where it's like, okay, yeah, you must have had a bad batch from your dealer that week, but there's __ that he wrote in like the MID 2010s where I'm like, your previous book rocked and this is trash. What? What is it? A different type of chamomile tea you were drinking that week, Mr. King? Did he write it in Maine or Fort Myers, Florida, where he also lives? Oh, man. I bet the Fort Myers books are the bad ones. Okay. But there is in the horror community. Do I need to bring that up again? Yeah, it gets funnier every time you do that. I applaud your ability not to do a spit take and instead roll your eyes when you did that 'cause you're drinking some water. I'm going to learn to roll my eyes so loudly that the listeners can hear it. That's going to be when I achieve a peak podcasting. Okay. What about the horror community? Okay. There is a cult of King in the horror community. Sure. That treats his stories as gospel. Yeah. And we're actually starting to see filmmakers emerge that are part of this cult of King. Namely Mike Flanagan, who has done a Dr. Sleep, a Gerard's Game and Gerald's Game. Sorry. Yeah. I want to play Gerard Butler's game. Yeah, I was picturing Gerard Butler tied up in bed. Hello. I think a lot of women were after 300 came out. And men. Other the and Mike Flanagan's doing, you know, a couple he's doing a carrei miniseries. Oh, that's going to come out along after this episode. Yes. We'll get a big bump then. He's a cult of King in that the texts are gospel. And I think it's such a __ excuse because Stephen King, I agree with you. I thoroughly enjoy his books. I will continue to read them. I did get to a point where I'm like, how many Stephen King books in one lifetime do you need to read? Less than both of us have read. I hit that point at one stage. But I think anyone who is defending Stephen King's like we cannot change a word or any plot point of any of his books by law needs to go to court and defend the term dirty pillows. Okay. I mean, I don't mind. Okay. The term dirty pillows. Yeah, it kind of makes my skin crawl, but also I think that like that's the intent. Like I think that's more of a window into Car's mom than it is into Stephen King. I think that's Stephen King being like, what's a gross way I can put listen, Stephen King has some weird ideas about sex. I am not trying to defend him on that. I just don't think Dirty Pillows is emblematic of what that is. When did your parents sit you down and give you the talk about the proper way to defeat an evil clown by having an orgy? Just a couple years ago. Yeah. You got the talk too late. Parents don't realize it. We don't need to go too far into this because we're going to deviate from the topic today, but I had the book it ruined my summer once. I remember that summer. You were so mad. I was so livid. I was cause I'm a slow reader and it's a thick __ book. It's a doorstop. And I remember I pre-ordered my tickets to it chapter 2. And I was so pissed off at the book that I cancelled my pre-order tickets. I still haven't seen the second part to this day because I'm like I don't want to engage with it anymore in my life. This __ sucks. This is such a shitty turn of like I don't know, it just pulled the rug out from underneath me as a reader. That was when you moved out of the other horror community. That's when you bought your farmhouse at the edge of town close to that cemetery for pets. But okay. So the cult of King, there are people in this world who have this slavish devotion to everything that Stephen King has written and maintain that an adaptation of it must hew very closely to the source material. That seems to be the argument 90% of the time when they are arguing against a film they don't like. Okay. Like it, the movie only failed because it didn't adhere to Stephen King's story. Interesting. So, yeah. And today's movie is based on a Stephen King book. So I imagine that's why we're having that conversation. Yeah. So this week we're talking about Carrei, the remake of Carrei from 2013. Yeah. Sherman, do you want to use your mind powers to move words and sentences around and make a synopsis for us? Those powers have proven to be quite weak in the past, but let's give it a shot. Shy, unpopular high schooler Carrei White, played by Chloë Grace Moretz, lives with her domineering mother, Margaret, played by Julianne Moore, a mentally unstable religious fanatic. Margaret has never educated Carrei about her body. So, when she gets her first period in the high school locker room, she's confused and terrified. The other girls, led by bully Chris Hargensen, played by Portia Doubleday, mock Carrei and take a video of her screaming on the floor as they throw tampons at her until gym teacher Miss Desjardins, played by Judy Greer, intervenes. In the aftermath, Chris uploads the video of Carrei to YouTube. And in response, Miss Desjardins bans Chris from the prom. Meanwhile, another girl from the locker room incident, Sue Snell, played by Gabriella Wilde, feels bad for taking part in the bullying and asks her handsome boyfriend, Tommy Ross, played by Ansel Elgort, to take Carrei to prom. Over the next few weeks, Chris and her boyfriend, Billy, played by Alex Russell, hatch a bloody revenge plot to humiliate Carrei at the prom, all while Carrei begins to discover that she has mysterious telekinetic powers. Woo! Congratulations! In reading and writing that I kind of realized, oh yeah, I haven't mentioned the fact that this girl has superpowers until the very end. And I kind of like it. I kind of like how you kind of get lost in the social dynamics of it instead. Well, you know what? This ultimately is a drama at the heart of it that just has telekinesis in it. Yeah. Imagine if Death of a Salesman had just a little bit of telekinesis in it. Now, I also just want to point out your synopsis in which you mentioned the cast members mentioned two, not one but two national treasures. We have Queen Julianne Moore. Yes. And Queen Judy Greer. Yes. Both of whom I would let throw me into the Grand Canyon if they wanted to. So great have been their contributions to cinema and television. We also have not one but two prominent 30 Rock guest stars. Yes, Chloë Grace Moretz and Queen Julianne Moore. So that's very true. I'm not trying to give Chloë Grace Moretz a demotion. It's just she was only in one episode and Julianne Moore was in a bunch of them. It's fine. I think she was in 3 at least. Okay. I guess I know, no dissing on Chloë Grace Moretz. I just like Julianne more, one might say. And we're not even mentioning Ansel Elgort, in our conversation here, and I think that's probably for the good. Yeah, I think the kids are calling him the Gort these days. Let's just go, since you went over the cast, let's go over the crew real quick. This is directed by Kimberly Pierce, who also did Boys Don't Cry, Stop Loss. There's another one that I am not recalling at the moment. And a lot of TV like the L Word, lots of prominent like we talked about, the new queer cinema and queer television that boomed in the late 90s and early 2000s. She was a big part of that. Screenwriters, Lawrence D. Cohen. Now, in an interesting credit, he wrote the original 1976 adaptation. Yet. And a Robert Ajira Sakeza who wrote for Riverdale. Yet. And now do like I'm sort of curious about the credit for Lawrence D. Cohen. I don't know. Like, do we think that he actually was involved in the writing process on this movie, or is it just that like the original movie, his work on that script, it was close enough that they kept it? Yeah, I tried to look into this actually and I didn't get any confirmation about it, but I think it's an arbitration thing in that they veered so closely to what the 1976 original screenplay was that they had to give him credit. I don't know that they started from that screenplay and made slight adaptations to it. I think it was more let's cover our legal bases, give him a little bit of a kickback on this adaptation and call it a day. So, I don't think he actually had any real involvement in this remake. Wow. The one of the first documented cases of a screenwriter not getting screwed by the industry. You love to see it. So, okay. And we're going to talk a little bit more about Kimberly Pierce. In a little bit here, but what do you say we go into some box office stuff? Yet. You know what? What did this I'm interested to know how this movie performed because I actually this time have not discovered that in my research. Oh, good. We can probe your mind to see what your assumptions about it are. Okay, that's I think probe your mind is somehow more skin crawling than dirty pillows for me. Alright. This movie was released on October 18, 2013. Right in time for the scary Spook Them Up season, was released by Screen Gems and Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer both internationally and in the United States. Do you want to guess how many theaters this was released into? Did they just blast this sucker into like 3,100? Bear in mind, and this is something we haven't covered, and maybe we should start moving forward because it does affect how many theaters a film can enter. This is rated R. This is really I had the same reaction to you. It's a note. It's a note that I'm going to get into later. Are you with me right now? Are you using telepathy to make me hallucinate about this? No. And there was a moment where I had a note written down going, this movie would just be killer if it was rated R. And then like the second I wrote the note, we cut to a shot of two of the teens having sex. And like there's full-on thrusting. And I'm like, well, that shouldn't be in a PG-13 movie. And I looked it up. I'm like, this is rated R. Okay. But wow. Interesting. You make the choice to go for thrusting, but you then don't make the choice to go for nudity. Strange. Strange? Well, yet. Well, there might be reasons for that we'll get into later, but okay. Okay. Excitement abounds. Okay. Then in that case, I revise my estimate and I would say 2,850 theaters. Too soon. Okay. From what was your original? 3,100. Oh, you should have went with your original. This was released into 3,157 theaters. What a wide release for an R-rated movie that is inexplicably rated R. Okay. Okay. And what did it make? How'd it do? Well, on a $30 million budget, we can estimate that it had approximately $20 million marketing budget. Okay. So, let's just say the movie front to back cost $50 million. Yeah, I'll take that. Okay. Domestically in the US and North America, it makes $35 million. Just over $35 million. Okay. Okay. It's not a great margin. Internationally, it makes $49.5 million. Okay. So, more popular overseas for a total box office gross of $84.8 million. Yet. So like it didn't $30 million on it. Yeah, they made $30 million on it. But I feel like, by 2013, I think the brain rot had set in that kind of every movie has to make you unfathomably wealthy or else that movie failed. Yes. But yet. Well, I mean that's that if well, are you looking at the math or are you looking at the perception? Because those are two different things. This is making $30 million whereas Boys in the Boat lost what? 50 million or something like that. Okay. Okay. Fair point. And the investment wasn't $100 million like Boys in the Boat. This was a $30 million investment. Okay. Sure. Yet. 50 million if we were doing marketing. Yet. I guess they okay. They spent less on this. They had a modest gain, but it was a modest spend in the first place. Okay. But I guess then again, the movie made so little impact that it wound up getting beamed to us through deep space by a machine that detects forgotten films. So that says something, too. Yet. Well, yet. And we might go into that later, too. Man, there's just so many previews of this episode. So, sorry. Do we ever get to anything on this episode or are we just going to talk about all the things we are eventually going to talk about? It's like seeing a movie at AMC. You just have to sit through 20 minutes of previews before you get to the movie. Yet. Well, but at some point we're then just going to have very easy movie trivia flashing up on screen. So get ready for that. This 1995 blockbuster is about a ship that sinks starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet. Well, speaking of ships, let's get into the weekend box office. Do you want to guess what this debuted at? I would say number 3. Number 3. Right on the money. Wow. Okay. You know what? It just yet. Number 3. I feel like built-in IP and, I guess again it's wild that an R-rated movie went that high. Anyway, yet. Okay. So, what else was it going up against? It was going up against, as I said, speaking of ships, in a number 1 in its third week, Gravity. Oh, I was seeing that this weekend. And number 2 in its second week, Captain Phillips. So, lots of ships abound. Oh, boy. Yet. Who's having a worst time, Carrei or Captain Phillips or Sandra Bullock trapped in space? But you know what? All of them needed our 4th place in its first week. Escape Plan. Oh, that's not a movie, that's like some kind of thriller or actiony movie. It's like a movie about it's like a romantic comedy or something, right? No, I think that's the Stallone one where he's in prison and needs to break out. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. For some reason, I hear Escape Plan and I picture like Owen Wilson and I don't know who was hot in 201. Yeah, Kate Hudson. Kate Hudson and Owen Wilson. And it's like she needs to escape from this relationship that she got into. She married this guy in Aruba and he's a real drag. I'm not going to point out your jumps to conclusion there and what they could mean, but let's just keep moving. Okay. He can try to escape from her, too. I don't know. It's fine. I just meant that you went to relationships over prison. Yet. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying it seems like, but they're smiling, though. It's a romantic comedy. They stay together in the end. I'm not saying relationships are bad. I'm just saying it's like I discovered that in life, we all need an escape plan. Like, she's actually escaping from her preconceived notions about yet. Wilson. She's escaping from needing an escape plan. Yet. Exactly. Exactly. I don't know. If they'd made that movie, it would have done better than Gravity. Okay, go on. What's the 5th one? The 5th one, and I'll cut it here, is Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs too. Oh, yes. The Meatballs saga was not completed by the first film. Just to wrap this up, carrei stayed in theaters for 6 weeks only, and oddly 3 of those were in the top 10. So, it seems like truncating that pretty quickly. It went from 3rd place to 6th place down to 9th place. Interesting. I mean, it was a good time of year to be a horror movie with a recognizable name. And I guess but even then though, as soon as the Halloween season was over, nobody had anything else to do with this. Yet. Well, I guess this brings us around to the question about your awareness of this. Did you see this at the time? Knowing what a hardcore horror fan you are, were you at least aware of this movie? I was aware of this movie. I saw a trailer for it. I think not by accident, but I saw, oh, they're doing a carrei remake with Chloë Grace Moretz. Interesting. And I actually watched the trailer and I mainly remember, I know this will complicate our game next week. I mainly remember kind of an overhead shot of the town and like things exploding in the town. And my initial thought being, oh, I'm aware that in the book she doesn't just kill everybody at the prom, she actually walks around town and kills like hundreds of people. Is this movie going to do that stuff that was not in the original movie? And I actually was kind of mildly excited. Does it? What do we say that? What do we kind of? What do we say that? We say kind of more than the first movie does. Well, okay. I remember being sort of intrigued about it. I did not see the movie until now. But I remember having a little bit of hope that maybe this would be a different take on the carrei mythos. Yet. Interesting. And so what about you? You'd left the horror community at this point, but did you still get do you see the article in the newspaper that this was coming out? I don't even think I was ingrained in the community yet. 2013. I liked horror, but I don't think I was like obsessive about it at that point. I see. Maybe I was. I don't know. I need to do some self-reflection and figure that out. But yet, let us know how podcasting. So yet. No, it sucks actually. But okay, so did you or did you not know about the movie? You could not know about this movie. This is one of those case studies where let's just saturate every single movie that's coming out, regardless of it having any audience overlap with the carrei trailer. Yet, I saw this carrei trailer so _ many times over the summer of 2013 that I wanted to pull my hair out. We're both going to be unnaturally good at the trailer game next week. I think we have a lot of stuff. Yet. Well, there's one image in particular that it broke me every time I saw it. I'm just like and okay, it's a good segue. It's the girl's face getting smashed into the gym window during the massacre. And I want to address something here that we can bring back up when it's appropriate in this episode, another preview. With that image and it being oversaturated that summer, I fell into this same stupid-ass mindset that so many other people did, particularly men, of thinking that this movie looks just dumb and unnecessary and why are they even making it? And I just want to acknowledge that I didn't give it a chance at the time and I was part of the problem, which is much more deeper than I want to go into at the moment. But it's a reason why this movie is forgotten and I will go back into that later. But I think this movie just had so much going against it going before it even hit theaters that and my reaction to it is part of that problem of just why are we doing this? And I want to correct the record that I was wrong in having that assessment and it's opened my mind to not taking trailers for what they are. And I'll give you another example. There's a recent movie that came out, Woman in the Yard. And it's a horror film centered on a black family in a farmhouse. And I could tell by watching the trailer, there's more going on in that movie than their marketing. Yet. They were marketing that film to appeal to white audiences who love The Conjuring. Where it feels like it could be I haven't seen it, but it feels like it could be playing on deep folkloric, traditions that go so much deeper than just being a, conjuring clone. Yet. And so I think it's just these are interesting case studies to check our own prejudices at the door and going, oh okay, maybe there is going to be more to this thing than I'm giving it credit for. Yet. No, I mean I definitely didn't have I didn't have a strong reaction against the trailer. Like I saw the trailer and I thought okay well they're doing a remake but it looks interesting. It looks like they're doing a new take on it. So I'd say that I definitely came into Carrei with an open mind. Having not even really had a long connection to the original movie and, I feel like being able to approach this movie with an open mind. I think my overwhelming reaction is, this sucks. It's shitty. Why did they make it? I come to that fully honestly. I think this movie absolutely sucks. And I am excited to discuss it and I think I have come to that opinion in a very even-handed way, assessing the movie on its merits. But this movie, I hated this movie so much that it kind of bummed me out. It actually sort of ruined my day watching this movie. Oh no. So here we are landing on opposite sides of the locker room with very different opinions about what's going on, who's going to bully who in this episode. I think this movie isn't above criticism. There's a lot of stuff wrong with it. Yet. But I think it's worth breaking down what it's trying to do because at the end of the day, yes, it's a cash grab, but that's _ Hollywood. That argument doesn't really hold water for me. Like, they're trying to make money, so no _ it's a cash grab. Oh, yet. I don't dispute that at all. Where do we want to go? Where do we want to go from here? Where do you want to take us from here? Oh, God! Where to even start with this story? Why don't we hear? Okay, let's break it down into sections. Okay. There is if you want to get into screenwriting terms, the inciting incident, right? It's the shower scene. Yet. Right. Then we can talk a little bit about her powers maybe because those kind of coincide. So, why don't we start there? Yet. Just to orient ourselves and our listeners to the whole carrei of it all. The whole carrei of the movie Carrei. The main character's name is Carrei. And she's carrying a real burden, which is, that she is not aware of what the menstrual cycle is. And, this movie gets going. She's in gym class and she's playing volleyball in the pool with her all-female gym class. And I'll just say that if you've seen the original movie Carrei, you know exactly what's going on. Just every SE like it the order of events in that movie and the order of events in this movie are almost identical. Many of the scenes play out in almost the same way. But you may remember at the beginning of the original movie they are playing volleyball outdoors. Here they are playing volleyball in a pool. Carrei is not well liked by her peers. They go into the locker room. As she's showering, she gets her period and then runs to the other girls begging for help because she doesn't know what's going on. I know that I just came out hot against this movie, which again, in case we forgot, I think is quite bad. I actually thought that the shower scene here, though, was really harrowing. I thought this was one of the most effective bits of the movie because I think and I'm not intending to just go blow for blow with the original the whole way through. But I would say that what this has over the original is more of a sense of the actual fear that Carrei is feeling. And in this what is captured here really effectively is that she thinks that she's dying and she's going to these girls who she already doesn't trust and knows she's kind of afraid of them but is begging for her life cause she thinks she's going to die and they're laughing at her and she's so confused and betrayed by that and the scene is harrowing in both movies but it was really getting me here and so I think that that's a pretty strong start and then. Of course your movie is already starting strong and then effing Judy Greer walks into it and you realize, oh that's slapping people. Yet. Yelling at these kids and slapping people, and it's like a we love to see Judy Greer in a movie and b that Judy Greer is playing one of the coolest characters from the character that I liked the most from the original movie. It's like yes, great. Finally. So I don't know. I felt can I jump in here? Yeah, of course. It's your podcast, too, Doug. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. So, I'm glad we agree on this, and this is a great example of when the comparisons and conversation with anything that's come previous to you, previous interpretations comes into play because you're starting this movie out and you know that your audience is going to have, scrutiny for every little thing you're doing, right? And I think the transition from outside volleyball to pool volleyball is just a stroke of brilliance for one particular reason. And it's just I'm already putting my little woke hat on here. Look at me. I got to name my woke character here. You never take off the woke hat. Let's be clear. I know. Okay. All right. But I'm going to get real into it here, right? Okay. This is going to be messy and I promise I'll try to make sense of it all. The putting this into a pool demonstrates an incredibly important thing about this remake over the original, which is this film is a female protagonist. Yet. Dealing with female issues. Yet. And female themes. Yet. And it's the first time it's directed by a female director. Yet. And I think that's important because Brian De Palma's version, while I won't say it's not engaging and entertaining and well made, that movie is very much about making men feel the fear of menstruation versus being a story about women's problems for women and demonstrating that. Yet. And putting it in the pool is a stroke that I feel like only a female director could do because the fear of having your period when you're in the pool. Yet. I don't know. I could never know. But I've heard that before. And when I saw that transpiring, I was just like, oh, we're not going to have the shower scene. It's all going to happen in the pool. And it even starts with like that Jaws shot where we're below the water seeing all their legs. And it's almost like, what's going to happen. It's gonna happen. Yet. No, same. I thought the same thing. Here's where we differ. When it then didn't happen, I was like, oh, okay. Well, there was an opportunity to innovate on the original. I mean, that would have been like that seems like an even more mortifying way to have your first period. I'm not the having their first period expert, but like that seems like an even worse place for it to happen than the shower. True. But that's where there's this, when you're dealing with remakes, you have this insurmountable challenge ahead of you of like you can't change something that iconic that early into your film and you completely alienate your audience. So, you have to do the shower scene. It just becomes how do you do the shower scene? Okay. And look this gets in this I think starts to get into the divide brother against brother the intra-oddcast civil war about Carrei. I am sympathetic to the fact that Kimberly Peirce had a lot of constraints in terms of just she had made a couple other movies that were indie films. She'd had a lot of projects she was trying to get off the ground that fell apart. And then, MGM reaches out to her with the Carrei script locked and loaded and it's like, do you want to get on this? And she's like, yeah, I want to work and like build relationships so I can make more movies. But so, I recognize that there was probably a lot of constraints from the studio in terms of like what changes she could make, what kinds of different stuff she could do. So, I don't hold this against her. At the same time, as a movie, when you are doing a remake of a really notable movie, I feel like you are better off blazing your own trail from the jump, not trying to recreate a bunch of already iconic scenes when you could instead say, I'm in this already kind of no-win situation of remaking Carrei. Like the better way to approach this would be to just start doing different stuff and give the audience a reason to keep watching a story they've already seen before. Yet. I mean, we don't disagree on that. I'm not like talking about the choices necessarily that she can or can't make or is not making. It's more like you are adapting again Stephen King. It's not just any person. You're adapting Stephen King with such a heavy shadow of the former film, and you're pulling people into the theater that are like engaging with Carrei, the legacy of Carrei. Yeah, I agree with you. It would be much more interesting to completely innovate on that thing. Yeah. But from a marketing perspective, and I'm not even putting this like Hollywood put the script on her and told her she couldn't change that. It's just you have to give those tent poles that they're expecting, even if you would like to change them, because you're siphoning off so much of your audience right out the gate if you don't do it. Yeah. And again, I recognize the pressures that are there to do that. I guess I am more just mad about what is served? Who is served? What do we gain as an audience from seeing the thing we already have seen served back to us almost identically? Not true. Not true even a little bit though. That's where I'm going to differ with you there, because this is also where I think it's important that this is directed by Kimberly Peirce, because as you said, the way that the shower scene unfolds here is harrowing, and you feel like she's fighting for her life. She feels like she's dying. Yet, where Brian de Palma shoots it in such an exploitative, unnecessarily sexual way that isn't about her discovering her own pleasure. It's about the audience's pleasure watching her discover her own pleasure. We call pleasure the vibe that's going on there. Everything leading up to the bleeding, like we're close-up shots of her boobs and just going up and down her body. And like fair, I would forgive De Palma if that were like a one-time interpretation of the material. He does this exact sequence almost shot for shot again in Dress to Kill and in Body Double. So this is just a perversion of his that is not serving the story. It's serving whatever kind of things he wants to depict. Yet. I gotta say, having not seen Carrei before, I did not realize that literally scene 2 in the movie is just frolicking supposedly teenage girls nude oh, wow. This is okay. Yeah, the 70s sure were a time, weren't they? So, I think Kimberly Peirce does this in a way though that's it roots it far more in the experience than it does caring about what the audience is getting out of it necessarily. It's more story driven than it is serving the male audience. Yet. It does a better job of that. And again, I think this is probably one of the few high points of the movie. And so I guess let's keep going into it. I'll grant you yet. Though. Better to get a take on this opening scene that is not just hey, aren't naked girls awesome? But is actually grounding you in the characters and social dynamics of these people as yes, that's an improvement. Yet. Yet. I'm just going to keep flogging the same horse at this point, but I don't think it can be understated how important it is to have a female developing the perspective at which the story is being told in this version. Yeah, I agree with you. But I think wouldn't it be even cooler if you the studio have decided we're going to remake Carrei and we're going to do it with a female director? What if you empowered that female director to make changes to the existing story written by a man and the original movie directed by a man written by men? Like what I mean? If you're going to it's just if you're going to the female perspective is so important, then why not let her fully kind of spread her wings and do a different thing instead of reenacting events set up exclusively by men previously, cause we know Hollywood's courage only goes so far as the path of least resistance. Cool. Yet. Fortunately that's the only American institution where nobody has any backbone. Okay. So period in the shower. Oh boy. That's bad news. Time to go to the principal's office with Miss Judy. Hold on. There's some other stuff beyond the menstruation there that I think are worth mentioning. This is the first demonstration of her powers a little bit as all the girls are throwing tampons at her saying, plug it up. Plug it up. All of this directly from the book. It was depicted in the first film. What I kind of like about this version, and I also watched OK, Truman, I like always do way too much research. Did you do for this episode? I watched the 1976 version. I watched the 2002 television version. I watched a static shot of the 1988 musical. Yet. Landon texted me the link to that, just be like, oh, if you need this for your research, and I was like, I'm not watching this girl go through all this a third time. I'm sorry. I'm watching a lot of Carrei already. The musical version from 1988, not the one from 2012, is something to behold, and I wish I could have been in the audience for it. Wow. Imagine if you will not a volleyball scene that starts the movie, but a song and dance jazzercise number. Okay. Well, that's of its time certainly. I mean, that fits. Yet. Where was I going with this? Oh, yet. In terms of the first displaying of her powers, I really appreciate the subtleness here, where like the 2002 version there is no subtlety whatsoever. Like they're in, and same with the original where they are in the shower, she's screaming and the light is just like bird's eye view from above. The light explodes and like you just like, oh, her powers have arrived here, like yes, the light pops and blows out when Judy Greer is like trying to comfort her, but like before that, as the tampons are scattered around her, they're just like slowly as she screams out, just slowly like pushing away from her a little bit, like yeah, like ripples, like a fan is blowing on them. Yeah, that was cool. It's very subtle. Yeah. If you enjoy subtlety, enjoy it here, cause there's not much of it in the offing for the rest of the movie. Oh, German. Also worth noting in this scene as all of this is going on, you know, there's Sue Snell is like the girl who Carrei has run towards her and like left a bloody palm print on her shirt. And then Sue is kind of standing there while all the other girls, led by Chris, are throwing the tampons. And Chris pulls out her phone and is filming Carrei when she's on the floor of the bathroom. The first true deviation from the original material. Yes. And you want to talk about studio notes? MHM. And pushback from the director. I guarantee there was incredible pressure on Kimberly Peirce to show how this is unfolding on social media. We need to see what's happening on Facebook. We need to see what they're saying on Twitter. And she does not show us any of that. I think she perfectly calibrates the amount of technology for the time for how it serves the story, rather than the superfluous __ of going into like, well, we need to be timely, so we have to show Twitter. Yet, I would say that she disastrously calibrates the amount of technology used in this movie. It completely breaks the entire premise and leads me once again to ask why the __ is this movie being made? I think this is explain. Okay, tell me. Okay, I'll tell you. I've been sitting with this knowledge for a few days and seething about it. Okay, they film her on an iPhone when she is lying on the floor of the shower covered in tampons and blood, screaming. Very harrowing stuff. Later in the movie, her bully Chris and her friends are lounging around their house quite heavily, and they say, hey, that video we took, why don't we upload it? Yeah, let's upload it. And they go to a laptop and upload the video to YouTube from the laptop because it's 2013 and that was how they did it. The video is on YouTube, and then basically it is used as a plot point later where Judy Greer says to Chris, because you uploaded that video and we know that you did it, you're not going to prom. And then at the prom, when they spoiler alert dump pig blood on Carrei, they also put the video of her up on the projectors there. Yet, if you are doing a remake of a story written in the 1970s and a movie made in the 1970s, these are movies about teenagers. A story about teenagers in a high school. There was a very specific, the experience of being a teenage girl in the 1970s is pretty different from the experience of being a teenage girl in 2013. A big part of that puzzle is social media. A big part of just how being a teenager is different in the 21st century is the way that your interactions happen online and your image is managed online, and how bullying can happen online. And this movie is very much an issues movie about bullying, an after Chloë special level movie about bullying too. So, it's like if you're going to update Carrei to 2013 and you're going to have the internet be in it, this movie, this story about bullying and being a picked on teenager, but you're not going to engage with this major way that bullying is happening in the 21st century. If you're not going to update the story and the play of the story and have it meaningfully impact the plot and the characters, why the __ are you making the movie? Why are you doing it? If you're just going to have the kids act like 70s teenagers, but with 2013 clothes and phones, what are you doing? Why are you asking for our money? Well, I won't go to the full extreme with you on that, but I mean, those are good questions to ask. And 2 points that one is just kind of something I've already asked, which is like the amount of calibration she has to do to make this somewhat resemble the original and the pressure to do that. Which I don't know and we don't need to relitigate. But the other part of this is the real world issues that were going on at the time. You already mentioned bullying, but like there was legitimate cases of teen suicide happening. Yet. Subsequent to this release. Yet. And we all know Hollywood does not want a controversy. So, how do you adjust if you find yourself in a situation where the world, kind of speeds ahead of what you're making? How do you adjust so that you aren't, insensitively commenting on it by including the things that you weren't intending to comment upon? Okay. Well, yeah, but then I'm not insensitive to that, but then maybe don't __ make the movie. Like, don't make the bullying I'm already committed. Well, and think of all the money on the table. Look at all that cash that I can roll around in if we do the Carrei remake. Yet. Look at that like $30 million profit that I'm going to make. The largest sum of money ever earned by a movie in history. I just look, I think, and we can come back around to this cause I have a lot of broader thoughts, and I think part of why I'm so fired up about this movie is the way that it treats bullying. Like I think that this movie you can either make a statement or you cannot make a statement. And this movie has just chosen not to make a statement about so much stuff that makes me again question like, then why are you talking? Yet. Well, okay. Let's just do a quick comparison though. Like as far as if we're going to talk the money conversation that this is, let's just say this is being made purely for profit, okay? At least we have someone trying to make the best movie that she can with the material and the resources given to her and giving it a new perspective versus the Poltergeist remake that we did last year. That was a truly hollow experience that none of the people involved with seemed to care about doing, nor us actually watching had. Like the movies completely escaped me. I don't even remember much about it. Yet. So like you can hurl that argument at both of these. I think at least this one has some people who care behind it. Whether or not they're able to make the decisions they want to is a different conversation. I would say that I consider this movie an almost completely hollow experience. But yes, there is a look, I think there is a lot more passion put into this than there was into the Poltergeist remake. I will give you that. I do not doubt that Kimberly Peirce had a lot of passion for this movie and getting it right. Chloë Grace Moretz doing a good performance. Julianne Moore, one of the best parts of the movie. Judy Greer obviously like people give a __ here. I just there there's a lot of ways that this movie did not this a lot of ways this movie could have been better. I think like this sure just the fact that okay, you introduce this concept of the phone, she's filmed, she's on camera, and there's this video of her at her worst moment, but like Carrei doesn't even really seem to know that the video exists until the end of the movie when it's shown on the screens, and even then it's like, well, you've already had pig's blood dumped on you. In front of everyone. Like it's kind of a hat on a hat at that point, like yeah, fair, and that's where like I was invested in the movie enough to like be in that moment with it, but I totally the criticism is deserved. But that's kind of where I'm on the other side of the fence with the social media conversation, because the character of Carrei White even in a social media world wouldn't be on social media. So to fully like encapsulate what's happening behind her awareness and with the other characters just like becomes a different, it's not carrei anymore, which is fine, and maybe we should make that movie. Yeah, maybe we should. But we aren't. And we're making carrei in 2013. And you know, with all of that baggage and the different like dead ends of that maze you're doing, you know, it finds its way to the finish line. Just the bar is lower than the bar Cheers, which is in the basement of Melville's Fine Seafood. Well, you know, we're only looking at mazes in a two-dimensional space from above. If you were actually to make it 3D and step inside of it, we don't know how tall those walls are. Maybe we could just see the end from where we're standing at the beginning. Yeah, man. I can't see the end of this conversation. This is also a maze. I look yeah, I agree with you. Oh, yeah. Carrei, as portrayed in the other movies, would not be on social media. But if we are updating the story, perhaps like lots of other sheltered Christian kids who are not allowed to be on social media, find a way, be it through a secret phone their parents don't know about, or like what if carrei's mom has a computer and an internet connection cause she's trying to do proselytizing online and carrei secretly uses the computer when her mom's out of the house. That's a way that you can take the emotional center of the story of carrei, this girl who's an outcast who wants to feel real, and update it and bring it into the world that kids today actually live in. But no, we don't get that. You sound like a capital C creative. Have you ever thought about screenwriting? Yeah, the last time I tried to share my creativity with Hollywood, they threw tampons at me and yelled, "Plug it up! Plug it up!" Listen, I love your version of it. I would watch that version of it. I'm just trying to acknowledge the kind of impossible situation that a Carrei 13 remake has to face. And again, I want to make very clear, I am not putting these decisions on Kimberly Peirce. I think it is the studio that was like, no, it has to do all the things the first one did, and we can't change any of it. And I am resentful of the studio for that. And I'm resentful of audiences for creating circumstances where studios believe that's what they must do. Let's switch the conversation for a minute to talk about the relationship between Carrei and her mother, because I forgot that this film actually doesn't start with the pool scene. Yet. It starts with a really interesting scene that is from the book, isn't in the original film. That I think is the perfect way to set up the dynamic between Margaret White and Carrei White, mother and daughter. Yet. No, you're right. The opening was all, you know, this first scene in which it's the mid-nines and Margaret Carrei's mom as we come to her, she's in bed going into labor alone at home, writhing in pain, screaming blood. It's also a lot and screaming biblical quotes and stuff. She's speaking to a god that or a devil that's in the room with her, and there's something that you know the benefit of a female filmmaker here. I never kind of thought about I don't see a lot of childbirth scenes where the woman is completely alone, and immediately in that moment I'm like, oh god, that must be scary as hell to give birth alone. I mean, giving birth on its own seems horrible, but to do it, no one there with you either by choice or by accident. And if you're crazy cuckoo nuts, thinking that, you know, having the seed inside you is, you know, the devil's work is a sin, you know, that just adds a layer to that character. To me, that's not putting a hat on a hat. That is layering you just take the situation as it is, and that's terrifying. But then you add immediate sympathy for the character of Carrei White even before Chloë Moretz Grace is on screen to go, this woman wants to kill her baby. I got so nervous just with the perfect Foley work where Julianne Moore after she gives birth is staring at her baby, and you just hear the shink of the shears of the scissors as she's holding them up about to stab her baby. And I'm like, is it okay to put scissors and a baby in the same frame? I feel very uncomfortable here. I was also wondering how they cause she pulls the shears out. She believes because she's called out to God or the devil or whoever to take away her pain during childbirth, and then she's fine. And then the baby is just slipped right out of her. She immediately is oh, this is Satan stuff. I shouldn't have, you know, prayed like that. That and she pulls out the shears and plunges them downward and like her hand stops right over the baby's face with the shears. I was also looking at that like so did they film it in reverse of her pulling them away and then they reverse the film like or is there are they know the shot the close-up of the baby that's 100% CGI shears? No, no doubt about it. Okay. But the one that like even concerned me was the scissors weren't really anywhere near the baby. It was after she like decides I'm not going to do it or I've been stopped and can't do it where she sets the scissors down like beneath her leg next to the baby. And I'm like even that made me nervous. Yeah. There's shears have like a 500 square foot like radius. They can't be close to a baby. Like you got to just keep them outside of that zone. Yeah. But anyway, this sets up such a unique performance from Julianne Moore. Yes. And we have 3 heavy hitters doing Margaret White's. We've got Piper Laurie nominated for an Academy Award upon rewatching it. A little cartoony for me. It's a Brian De Palma movie, dude. You know what you're fair. I know. But then, okay, let's not get in that conversation. The other one is Patricia Clarkson, who I love and adore in the 2002 remake, completely flat and does nothing with the part. I so disappointed in that. Yeah, it sucks when somebody doesn't innovate on source material. It really gets my goat. But then Julianne Moore coming in and just like finding depths of reality to this character and drama to this character that wasn't, present in even the book, like even in the book, she's a little over the top. Julianne Moore finds a way of taking that fanaticism and rooting it into something so __ disturbing. It's really good. It's really impressive. I know that I'm already a Julianne Moore fan, but like there's a scene where she's locked Carrei in the little prayer closet and Julianne Moore is out there. She's sewing and like working on a dress and singing like devotional songs along with the radio and it's while her daughter is locked in a closet. It's like it's creepy and you buy into this person's mania. The other choice I really liked, Julianne Moore, they show she works at a tailor shop or a dry cleaner or something in town, and there's one scene where she meets one of the sus Snell's mother comes into the shop. Yep. Yeah. And Julianne Moore like I guess the clerk, the main clerk isn't there. Julianne Moore mainly just works in the back, but she has to go and deal with this woman, and she like won't make eye contact, and she only speaks in a whisper. And like she's saying horrendous stuff to her in a whisper about how you're gonna burn or something. I love this interaction. So it's Sue Snell's mom comes in and she tries to apologize for her daughter saying yeah that was really I feel so bad about what happened to Carrei. But Sue is actually she's a good girl at heart and Julianne Moore doesn't really engage with it. She just kind of says under her voice but loud enough for her to hear. She goes, "Are any of them good girls? Like just like it's not shooting down the other person. It is shooting her down with her own beliefs. Like we the audience go deeper into how like insane she is through this response and it's that she is so she's this domineering force in Carrei's life who has all this power and control over her but then it just we get this glimpse of what her mom's life is like and her mom is so insecure that she can't even like speak at full volume or look at another adult in the it lends so much depth to the character in a really interesting way. And again, maybe part of why I get mad is like, oh, what a cool innovation on the source material. Thank you for giving me this movie. Thank you for giving me a little morsel of it. And then that makes all of the other bits that much worse. Oh, to quote Stephen King from his essay on Don's McGab, I feel like I've even mentioned this before. He does talk about horror movie fans going through they're like prospectors and I'm paraphrasing what he says in this. But they're like prospectors who will sift through __ and muck and sift just to get the tiniest bit of gold dust. And if that means one movie has just one little thing in it, that's what keeps them going. They're just going to keep showing up and sifting __ and muck just to get a little bit more gold dust every single time. I'm starting to see why you don't want to live in this community. They sound like an odd batch. Okay, one other last thing to mention about this scene and just kind of her character here is one of the additions that they do in this film that I think is so unsettling is the self-emulation and how it's not the typical like on your knees whipping yourself on the back, but like it takes shape in many different ways throughout this. You know, when Carrei starts demonstrating what she believes is sinful behavior. She goes out of the room and starts banging her head against the wall. Yes. There's other moments when she starts slapping herself. And this moment, now I've mentioned on the show before, I've seen drills go into head. I've seen people pulled apart. I've seen insides out. I've seen horrors you can't believe. In movies, Landon is saying, right? In movies. Yes. 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 In movies. Cool. Just wanted to clarify that I had two numbers of 911 dialed. I've seen eye trauma. I've seen foot trauma. I've seen genital trauma. Like I can't even begin to list even though I just did the amount of __ I've seen in films. Even this scene made me turn away. Yet, when she starts digging into her leg while she's talking to Sus Snell's mom, it's too much for me. I had to look away. It was so unsettling. She has some kind of a pin or like sharpened metal object that she's grabbed. And yet, the only way she can get through this conversation is if she's digging it into her skin and you see all these scars where it's like she has to do that every time she talks to someone, which I think is like when you're talking about bullying and the __ up but self-soothing ways that people, you know, kind of deal with that and feel other things. Like that's a real thing people deal with. Oh, yet. I probably shouldn't have called it __ up, but you know that's tapping into something real that is just another layer to this that I feel like is coming from Kimberly Pierce's perspective. Yet. No, it's great. It was great to have a little, you know, morsel of digging into something real before we just Riverdaled up the rest of it. All right. Well, you want to talk about the teens for a little bit? I do want yet. Let's talk about the teens. Let's talk about these kids. So, we've got, you know, there's Chris, who's the lead bully, and she's got her boyfriend who is a little bit older and has a buzz cut and drives a muscle car and wears other jackets. We're talking about Porsche Doubleday and Eagle 8er. Yes. No, that's not the Gort. The Gort is Sue Snell's boyfriend. Oh, you're right. My bad. But so, they are sort of they're the main bullies. They are the main forces of evil. Sus Snell is, you know, she and her boyfriend, the Gort are like she was in the crowd and she basically doesn't speak up when the bullying starts. And so as Judy Greer is cracking down on all of them and like as Judy Greer is cracking down on them basically, it's like Sue Snell is kind of starting to realize, yeah, we actually did do a __ up thing and she hatches this plan to have the Gort take Carrei to prom. I guess here's my thing. I think this sort of gets into what really pisses me off. This movie is going very hard on the anti-bullying message. And okay, this is something that even just in the and in the making of the movie in the production and development process, like even in the development process the producers were talking about wanting, like one of the reasons they gave for remaking it is because online bullying, cyberbullying was a bigger thing, and that also this movie came out sort of in an environment and part of like a broader cultural shift to really crack down on bullying. I'm not trying to say that bullying has completely been eliminated. I'm sure your mileage may vary if you are queer or a person of color or a woman, but just generally the culture on bullying from when I was in school to now. My impression, my understanding is that there has been this very big push kind of throughout society to be like bullying is bad, and even if being a bystander and laughing means that you are a bully too. And just like really trying to shift things against it, which I've heard in a lot of cases has like improved the culture for kids. I have heard the exact opposite, but I'm not an expert, so I'm not going to contend. We just can't agree on everything today, can we? Like I'm not saying well, no, I'm just saying. Yet, I'm not saying that like everything got fixed, but at least the way that we talk about bullying, there was like a broader push against it that was going on at this time and that was present in culture. And I think that this movie really tries to engage with that because it has all these additional scenes with Sue Snell talking to the Gort about how, I just stood there and watched, I didn't help. Like it's bad that I did that. We need to do something good for Carrei. Her making these arguments that it's wrong to treat her this way, etc., etc. And like I totally agree with the anti-bullying message. I think that bullying is quite bad. I didn't enjoy it when it happened to me. I don't want it happening to other people. It's just that then when we follow Chris, the lead bully, home and we get a look at what her life is like, it's her and her edgy, handsome, dangerous boyfriend speeding around in a muscle car cackling. They go back to her like big fancy mansion house and it's like he's trying to make her and her other friend make out in the bed and then it's like, hey, let's upload that video. Yet. Get her. And it's just they're cartoonishly evil. They are just yet. I don't disagree with you. Let me jump in here real quick because this plays into a lot of __ tropes even of the horror genre, particularly from the turn of the century. Yet. There was a shift and I personally call it the Weinstein years. Now you could probably find evidence against it. It's just what I call it. Where the Weinstein Company took over a lot of the horror properties around 1996, 1998 through the early 2000s. Yet. And there was a dramatic shift from how teens were depicted where historically, there's the whole Eert and Cisco, talking about how these films are misogynistic and whether they're right or wrong, at least they're having discourse. But by the time you get to, Halloween Resurrection is one of the most misogynistic, deplorable character movie I've ever seen. Yet. There is no redeeming value in any of the teenage characters. They treat each other like absolute __ MHM. And to me, I feel the reason I hate those films, and I love slasher films, the reason I hate those films is that it treats the audience like you just want to see these dumb idiots get killed. Aren't you? Here's your little sloppy dumb piggy. Eat your gory kills and watch these kids get dumped. Like, they don't think we want characters or characterization. And so this film, I agree with you, they are mustache twirling evil in this film, cartoonishly so. It's playing in this like we're just coming out of that age of that's kind of what teenage characters were. I'm not forgiving it for it. I'm just saying there's history leading up to what these characters, the paradigm of these characters going into this film. Yet. And I don't know. I'm part of it also because when I was working as a writer in the industry, I worked for a couple of short streaming horror series on a streaming service that no longer exists it was targeted at teens and it was set in high schools and the villains were always bullies and it was just we had to make the bullies cartoonishly evil so you're okay with them getting killed. And I don't even necessarily have a problem with that when it's a campy 15-minute long Facebook watch original about an evil tree that kills people. Okay, whatever. My problem is that, you are remaking Carrei, a kind of big movie about bullying. You are doing it with the explicit intention of being a bullying issue movie. MHM. Like anyone who gets mad at one of their classmates and decides, I'm going to go kill a pig, slit its throat, drain all of its blood out, hang a bucket over that person, and dump the pig blood onto them. Anything seniors do, you do that. You know how kids are. But I'm saying senior pranks, any teenager who does that, especially who does that in 2013, that person has some __ going on. That person is not well. And it's like, okay. And this is the thing about bullies is that they are replicating behavior that has been done to them either at home or they're being bullied by other people. So it's like, okay, we're doing the Carrei bullying issue movie. Yet. Let's look at what's going on in Chris's life. Hey, I don't know. I don't know. Hey, hey, hey. I don't know. What if Chris has a kind of __ updoineering mom, too? Oh, man. What if we investigate some cycles of __ violence in this movie? That would be interesting, wouldn't it? That would say something about bullying, an important issue. I don't want a devil's advocate this whole episode. Car's mom would have a problem with that. I agree with you. That would be an interesting take on it and one worth investigating. And, you know, on another level, like Carrei 2013 can't be a 4-hour movie investigating the backstories of every single person. So I'm not refuting the fact that yet, it is not engaging with the topic, the theme that it wants to engage with on a deep enough level. I completely give you that. I'm not it doesn't need to be a 4-hour long movie to do that. You can have 1 or 2 scenes of her at home and oh, her home life is __ and like the same way we only needed 1 scene of Julianne Moore not being able to fully speak to another adult human being to like get that interiority of her character. You could give us that in 1 or 2 scenes and you know maybe cut the getting ready for prom montage. No, Landon's dancing in the way he does when he has a good comment to make. True, man. You know what I just realized? What did you just realize, Landon? You just became my roommate outside the horror community. Oh, god damn it. Oh, alright. I mean, like, are there hoa fees here? What is it? Is garbage included? No, we just wander the hillsides looking in on the community, you know, with our binoculars. Okay. I'm okay. We're wanderers. We ride, you know, a buffalo and ride buffalo. We set up camp wherever we want to. I'm sorry. Is the Dances with Wolves community immediately outside the horror community? That seems like weird zoning to me. You're so everything you're saying, I mean, it's for me who loves good movies, hard for me to refute anything you're talking about. And what you're describing is stuff that is an impossibility due to the kind of toxic nature of the horror community and their demands on what they want their films to be and don't deviate from it. Now like that is the frustration I have where it's like this movie was so dismissed in its time because it wasn't the 1976 De Palma film. Yet. Now I think that you are asking good questions with actual research behind them. Why was this film made because of these reasons? Whereas at the time this movie was like why is this film made when we have the 1976 De Palma version which is a completely dismissive way of looking at this film. Yet. And that is very much the horror community side of things. So going into this and everything you're saying is like you are arguing against the horror community who doesn't want their thing that they love changed. MHM. And so, how do you make that in a way that is new and incorporates the world of 2013 and how the themes have changed in the world while adhering to that impossible standard of recreating the 1976 version? I'm just like you know what? If this is what the horror community is like, then I hope that a book version of Carrei thing happens where a girl walks through the streets killing hundreds of people in this community because that. A community so toxic that they both demand a thing be remade and then well, I don't even know if there was a great clamor for the movie to be remade. There was not. Okay. I'm okay, I take it back. A community that if a thing is remade are so toxic about it that people are afraid to cross them by innovating on it because I think there is so much Carrei stuff that still could be done. Like I think there are so many dimensions to either staying closer to the book or so many dimensions to just like exploring the basics of doineering mom girl who's a social outcast developing powers in a high school bullying situation. Okay. Go like from those 3 points there are so many directions you could carry that story in and I think just really grieving the cool movie that could have been made here but they felt like they weren't allowed to make it. That's the movie memory sheen brand baby that we're always lamenting the film that could have been. We do a lot of lamenting on our podcasts. That explains why we're so popular. I have a little bit of trivia here for you just to kind of switch up the vibe for a moment. Okay. Is this like AMC trivia before the movie? Is it super easy? Kind of. Kind of. Okay. When a Porsche double day when Chris is getting expelled, right? So, she has the entire team, you know, the physical ed team that was bullying Carrei has to do suicide things in detention from Miss Judy Greer. And Chris is like, fuck this nonsense. I'm not doing this shit. And Judy Greer's like, oh, you have to. My god, Judy Greer in this scene, the way she delivers. So like she is not above getting down to their level going, well, you know what's gonna happen if you don't do these suicide squats is you're just going to be suspended, and you know if you're suspended that means you're not going to prom. She is like playing with the big dogs and I love it. It's so good to see her in this. I am okay. I'm mad at the editing of this movie, too, and we can talk about that later. But I think that a lot of these scenes where she's talking to the girls in particular, they keep cutting away from Judy Greer. And you know what? Maybe that is the right thing to do in terms of just like filmmaking, but it's like I want to stay on Judy Greer's face the whole time and watch her do all these cool lines. Anyway, when Portia she says, no, __ that. Everyone, they can't suspend us all. They can't keep us all from prom. There wouldn't be a prom without and the team, you know, line in the sand goes, Chris, shut the __ up. And Chris like goes, I can't believe you all. And runs off on her own and basically goes into a meeting with the principal where she is about to be expelled unless she shows Judy Greer and the principal her phone, which he refuses to do. Now, in this scene, her dad is with her, and her dad is a big shot lawyer, right? Yet. Sleazy as hell. Sleazy as hell. Do you know he might have been bringing some sleeves with him from something you've seen him in before? Oh __ I don't know. This is actor Hart Brock. This is actor Hart Bachner. This is familiar to me. Yet, he should be. Oh no. Where? Mr. Bubby himself. Me wait. But wait. You mean is this Ellis from Die Hard? This is Ellis from Die Hard. Oh my __ god. I changed my mind. I love this movie. This is a great film. Oh my god. That's Ellis. __ man. This is okay, Kimberly Pierce, I got to give you credit. You are a true film lover. You're like, I need he's in one scene. I need to make clear he's a sleazy piece of __ let's get the coke addict from Die Hard. That's pretty good. I liked him. I liked him in this scene. He was great. I got his deal immediately. Yeah, exactly. Wow. Okay. Good for him. Good for him. You know, actually, speaking of fun cameos, when Carrei is locked in the prayer closet and is surrounded by all these devotional images. There is one shot of a Renaissance painting of the sacrifice of Isaac, which is of course when God told Isaac to go slit his son's throat and then Isaac was going to do it, and at the last minute God is like, no, don't do that. Why would you do that just 'cause I told you to do that? Oh no, don't do that. Bible's weird. Anyway, that painting featured in the movie is by a fellow named Caravaggio who I spent 5 years of my life researching for a script no one read. I read it. It's good. Okay, that one person read. But yeah, it's great. I was just happy to be like, wow, you know what? I can't say that I approve of a lot of what Margaret White is doing, but she has good taste in art at least. Well, that's an interesting thing to maybe mention here. And I want to segue into talking about some of the other aspects of this film where I think what this film does intentionally is makes it a little more non-denominational, whereas the original was very Christian repression. This is you see crosses at places, but like the original has a Jesus with glowing eyes and so much Christian iconography all over the place. Well, this one has a standard Jesus who bleeds. Well, true, but yet. Do glowing eyes make him inherently more Christian? Do you get like a, plus, add your dexterity modifier for Christianity or something? It's in the Gideon's Bible 2.0. Yet. I didn't get the new edition. I heard that the combat system was terrible in that one. And Jesus has lead eyes. I don't know. I found the Christianity in this one a little bit weirder because there's times when Carrei has come home and her mom is yelling at her scripture quotes and Carrei starts going, that line's not even in the Bible, mom, that's not even in there, and then she's saying no, that's not true, God is kind and loving and just, and I found it interesting that this movie's Carrei is sort of a more coexist bumper sticker style of Christian I believe in. Just sort of non-denominational Unitarian church type Christian I think it's interesting to see typically my experience with people whose parents were really overbearing and religious was they went very hard in the other direction. Not I disagree with some of your tenets, but I still believe that there is a God, it's just he's more loving than you say he is. Well, I think it's more indication that Julianne Moore has deviated so far into creating her own manic version of religion. Yet. What didn't that happen in Long Legs, too? The mother started with a specific religion and ended up in a completely __up version of it. I think so. I don't know. I feel like Nicolas Cage might be mixing up my serial killer movies. Yeah, it might be. I think the main issue was just that she met Nicolas Cage, and that was the real problem there. Okay. I do as someone who used to write fanfiction, I do like that Julianne Moore is basically writing biblical fanfiction and then treating that as the gospel. That's a power move. Yet. Kind of like real life. But let's keep going. One thing I want to mention in talking about the closet and the iconography around here. I'm talking about the set design a little bit. And talking about the props, there's a scene, and I want to give props to the props. There's a scene in the classroom, the infamous poetry reading scene. Yet. Where we see Carrei get up and speak in front of class, and there's a shot of Ansel Adams in the back of the class listening to her. Yet. And he has a textbook on his desk. Any other high school film would just be get me a bunch of textbooks that I could put on people's desks. Yet. The cover of his textbook is so bent and ripped and just kind of it looks like it was in his back pocket just being carried around school. It's a big pocket. The level of making the high school reality through the props was just to me a really great touch to this that didn't need to be there, but I was so appreciative that it was. Okay, I won't fight you on the tattered quality of the textbook he has. I was really put off by how glossy and clean and Riverdale as hell the high school looks in this. Okay, that's fair. I was very thrown by that because it's my perception of Carrei and divorcing it from the original movie entirely, but just okay, high school is a miserable experience. You are at the bottom of the social totem pole. Everything sucks. And they're walking around this school with all these nice new lockers and kind of nice big glassy windows in the rooms with natural daylight, and it's this old stately looking brick building in the middle of what seems to be a very developed urban core. I feel I don't know. It's if I don't feel the Misery or Dystopia. Misery is a different Stephen King property. I'm sorry. I don't feel the dystopian vibe of high school in this beautiful nice surrounding. They have an effing pool. I went to a rich-ass high school. We didn't have a pool. I don't know. I think that the story is kind of more powerful if it's this is in a small town. Their high school looks shitty. And it kind of has to be in a small town because what town do you live in where you have access to a pig farm? But then hey. I live in Madison. We have pig farms all over the place. Okay. This is my West Coast elitism. There are not many pig farms in the San Fernando Valley. So, I guess that's on me. No, I get your point, though. And yeah, to like it should at least be out of date. Or let me rephrase this. When you're doing set design, like it should reflect something, right? So, is the cleanness supposed to reflect how outside she is? Yeah. By how homely she's supposed to be and not fitting in, or should it reflect her inner reality? Yes. And or should her home life reflect her inner reality versus the school and having the juxtaposition? Like I get your point, and yet it does not feel like it's making a choice to further the story in either way for what it's doing, because I don't have any problem with it being a clean school per se. I did go to a high school that had a pool and it was all fairly clean, but at the same time, kids are _ dirty scoundrels. And you put them, they're leaning up against the windows at, recess or recess. Are kids still at recess in high school? I know, no. Recess went woke. They got rid of that. At lunchtime, they're leaning up against the windows or between classes. There's no way to keep those windows clean. I guess it's just like a horror movie, and again I don't live in the community and I don't live as close to it as you do, but like a horror movie needs to be building atmosphere. Yeah, it sucks. Okay, here's my opinion. You need atmosphere. You need to be building a vibe and creating a vibe in every scene. And when she is walking around a high school that just looks like it's I keep coming back to Riverdale, which I guess the writer for this worked on, but it just looks like a CW teen drama and not like a place that is making me feel a sense of dread or like of oppression or anything like that. And so it makes it like this movie is not scary, period. There's nothing scary in this quote-unquote horror movie. And I say this, I'm not calibrated to determine that for people these days because my calibration is way off. But I can't imagine someone being terrified by this movie or Carrie in general. I mean it's just not a scary story. It's a impactful story and you can kind of empathize with the character, but at no point are you it's more like dread and cringe for watching someone go through something rather than terror that something is about to happen. Yes. Yes. The original film is and again I am as someone who is not into horror movie and who frightens easily. The original movie not really scary, deeply creepy, deeply affecting, and this movie I think just misses that opportunity again and again in just that it doesn't look like much of anything. And I think per my comment about the editing, I think that the editing of this movie works against it in a lot of cases. There's a lot that's fair. There's a lot of scenes that could be very creepy and unsettling if we just kind of sat with them and let them play out. Like when her mom is first, they're arguing after she's had her period and her mom is at home and she starts banging her head against the wall. Carrie is hearing this noise, walks into the room, we see her mom doing it, and then we keep cutting closer and closer on her, banging her head against the wall. It's creepier if we just are in a static shot watching this happen again and again and we're left feeling uncomfortable looking at this. I mean, this is pre-A224. I feel now that vibe has become such a trope that we inevitably would see that if Carrie was remade in 2025. This was coming off of, the really aggressive editing of the early 2000s and 2010s. And so it feels a little conservative when you're looking at the 2002 version of this film. But your point's not lost. I agree with you. The editing is a little weak in this film for sure. Yeah, I just, all these places where we could be sitting and really kind of just getting into Car's world, feeling her isolation, feeling how alien the society around her looks to her, and I'm getting into her head. We're sort of robbed of that, which I think it made it really hard for me to develop an investment in what was going on. Once I reach this point of realizing, oh, this movie is going to do all the things I saw in the other movie and it's not, and it's not going to, give me an opportunity to really get into the characters in a new way or anything else. And then it's okay, well, how much more of this do I have to 45 minutes, hey? Okay, great. Interesting. Yeah, that's where we deviate a little bit because I do think like the first film, the filmmaking of it is very aggressive. Especially in the big sequences, right? And that's where I feel the like masculinity of it. We're making this for a predominantly teenage male crowd. Yet, where this one, I do feel like it takes time for the characters in the drama, it takes time. How effective it is at it is another conversation. But it attempts to take the time and made at a different period of time. It could direct these a little bit differently and craft the sequences differently, but this isn't an aggressive film. Yet. And it doesn't have to be. It just I don't think okay, it's not an aggressive film, but then that's not really replaced with anything else. Like I don't feel a lot of other vision or point of view. And I'm again not trying to take the piss out of the director here. It's just that the first movie had a very specific vibe and angle that it brought to this story. And I was excited to see a different vibe and angle whether I liked it more or less. And instead we just kind of got like this feels more like something I'd see on TV than I don't know. I guess I should watch the made-for-TV movie and see how that stacks up. But this felt to me so much like the Carrei TV series on the CW. Okay. Now, listen. I'm not like trying to hang you out to dry here. I just want to ask you some questions for discourse. Yet. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? I think that the story deserves more. I think that this had so much more potential to be more than that than just the average thing. And I think that if you are going to remake a movie that is so iconic like to then just make the CW version of it and not make some kind of statement with what you're doing is sort of gling. Well that okay. Okay. And I'm asking these questions because it's a little hazy defined for myself. So I'm just trying to get to something here. Yeah, you can roast me. Describing it as the CW version as if that's the assumption that is the standard for bad. Well, what's the thought there? And why is that the bad version of this? Because my perception of CW teen shows it's everything has a certain level of gloss, a certain level of melodrama to it. Everybody's pretty. All the locations are really stylish and everything, it's just it feels cheap in terms of just I see that and I think, oh, you shot this in Vancouver, BC in 4 days. Now, why is your criteria matter? Why does my criteria matter? Well, I don't know. It's my podcast. I can bring my own criteria into anything. Your opinion. Yeah, obviously your own criteria. It's your own opinion, but for the people who love the CW shows yet, and who they emotionally resonate with, those things that you're describing might not be as important for them or necessary for them to engage with the story at this level. And I think what I'm trying to get to as I'm realizing it myself is and I'm doing it myself. There's a certain amount of gatekeeping there of this should be this other thing that it's not. Now whether it's trying to be the thing that we're talking about or whether it's trying to be the CW version, I don't we can kind of take it on its own merits for that. It's the criticism of it trying to forcing it to be something that it's not is that worth criticizing something for okay that yeah because I am in turn trying to put my own perception of what kind of prestige movie Carrei should be on it whereas really if this movie about teenagers for teens is recreated in the style of popular teen-oriented TV shows from the time period in which it's being remade. Yet. Okay, you have a point there. Maybe when I got to security, I should have checked my privilege instead of trying to carry it on. Now I'm not saying that your opinion obviously is invalid. It's just I think as people who talk about these things, we need to be a little more broader. I feel like I need to be a little more broader-minded about who they're intended for and who it actually does resonate with and what they like about it versus trying to force some sort of prestige, Oh, this could have been so much cooler if ... fill in the blank, which I __ do on this show all of the time. So, I guess I'm calling myself out just as much. Okay, I guess I'll grant you that. I guess I'll grant you that. I'm still really bummed out by this movie. But here's the thing. Fair. I'm like, talk to me about why you liked it so much. Like, talk to me about what you liked about it. I won't sit here and take pot shots at everything you're saying. You can feel free to. Yeah. What I'm struggling with is like if I didn't know about the original and I didn't know about the discourse about this film going into it, and if I just like knew nothing about Carrei, I knew nothing about Stephen King, anything at all, and I just went into this movie completely cold, how would I feel about this film? And I think I would have problems with it. And those are the ones that I'm trying to highlight of like what are the legitimate criticisms of this film? And we can go into those because I haven't even talked about my criticisms yet. What I like about it though is that in not a blanket way, like it does try to give real world justifications for these crazy banana cuckoo stuff of like I love banana cuckoo. I have them every morning. Drink the milk afterwards. You know, being able to provide a space for Julianne Moore to cut loose and experiment and be able to give depth to a character that even in the novel felt cartoony. Is interesting to me. Being able to whatever degree she was able root this through a more female perspective. Taking a female protagonist, I'm just rehashing stuff, but taking a female protagonist dealing with female themes. Sure. That has been written by a man and famously directed by a man for a male audience. Shifting that. I like that it's attempting to. Now, I don't feel like it's completely successful. I'm on board for the attempt. Like it doesn't, to me this doesn't feel hollow the way that Poltergeist felt hollow. This is like there are people giving stuff to this and wanting, it to do something. I don't think it always succeeds at that, but I guess I'm at the broken point where I'm like, I am so sick of just Hollywood cash grabs that anything that attempts to do something, even if it's a messy failure, I'm more on board with than just a boring hollow experience. I guess we have different barometers, I think, for just what constitutes a hollow cash grab, I think. Or like different for what constitutes doing something, because I totally acknowledge there are a number of good things happening in individual vacuums within this movie, and I guess I am dragged down by my larger prejudices against CW looking stuff, and I got to admit as well, like I have that same prejudice, but there was a moment I had a couple years ago. I went to the theater to do a double feature. I was going to meet my partner to see a movie she really wanted to see. What movie? And I had some time to kill and I'm going to get to it. Okay. And I thought, okay, I got some time to kill. I'm going to do a double feature. I'm going to go see the movie Barbarian, and then as soon as that gets out, she's going to get to the theater and we'll go see the movie she wants to go see. Okay. Because Barbarian was going to be a little too intense for her. Which I respect. And I went and saw Barbarian, and I just I had the experience you're having with that film, where I'm just like, okay, this is kind of a hollow, keep them guessing, like what's the like legs on this sort of genre, the menu, and Malignant, this like you can never guess where this is going to go because the whole point is it's bunkers. And that movie really bummed me out. I'm like, what are you _ even doing? What story are you telling? This is just, chaos for chaos's sake. And then she really wanted to see this movie called The Invitation. There are a couple movies called The Invitation, but this one was, I don't even remember the filmmakers or the people in it, but one of the actors from Game of Thrones, and it was this very CW gothic vampire, trapped in a castle, inheritance, falling in love sort of dark horror fantasy romance movie. And at that point, after Barbarian and a couple other things that happened that day, I was in such a shitty mood. And I went into this movie, this CW movie, coming out of it having enjoyed the experience so much. It turned my day around because it so wholeheartedly embraced what it was, that it didn't have any pretensions to it. It knew its audience. It knew what to deliver. It knew how to deliver it. And no, it's not my thing, but I could engage with it for what it was. And it completely just like won me over. It's a shitty film. I would not like defend it in court, but the experience of it. I can't refute anyone enjoying that sort of thing. You're sort of describing my experience last year with the last song. Basically, it's like this is not for me, but it's doing the thing for its audience so well that I cannot be mad about it. Okay. But I mean I don't know why I brought out that story. That's not exactly how I feel about Carrei, but just in terms of judging things by their CWES. Yet. You're taking the movie at face value. You're taking the movie that's given to you and you're doing the thing that you were trying to encourage me to do, which is not come into this burden by perceptions of Carrei. And again, it's not me coming at it with a comparison to the original or the expectation that it'd be better. It's just I think I was hoping for a more daring take on the material and I think that's totally fair and you have engaged with it on such a deep level that I think it's justified. Any of your criticisms are justified. Thank you. Because this is not a great movie and I'll admit that. And let's transition into what I think is the trickiest part of this conversation about its biggest critique that I have for it, which is Chloë Grace Moretz. Now, I want to be careful here because I think so much of the discourse about this movie, the misogynistic, disgusting discourse about this movie from YouTubers at the time is so unfounded and unfair that it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Yet, where I couldn't find a single review that didn't comment upon the fact that Chloë Moretz Grace was attractive. And I'm using that in quotes because that's their thing. She's 15 years old. I'm not getting into that __ conversation. Yet. But they objectify her looks by saying she's too cute, attractive, whatever adjective they're applying to it to be Carrei. And yet the whole marketing of this and what was going on at the time is so much about sex appeal that you can't take someone like __SpaceX and place her in this role in 2015 or 2013 without breaking the mechanics of selling the film, which is also a disgusting world that I don't want to talk about. Yet. That said, and I think Chloë Grace Moretz is a great actress, and there's a lot of decisions that go into a single actor's performance, so I'm not putting this at her feet, but I think her casting and her performance are miscalibrated to the core of the character. So in that you think she's coming in with too much confidence like she's not for Carrei? I don't know. No, I don't even think it's that. And what bothers me about the why it's so tricky of a conversation is like the damned if you do, damned if you don't part plays into like the victim conversation where it's like, oh, she's too attractive to be a victim, and thus we don't believe her. And like that's a thing I don't want to get into and I don't think should be part of the conversation. But like what you're developing in this character, unless you were doing things like you're suggesting of changing the character enough to accommodate, the new world we're living in that's 30 years different from 1976. Yet. I don't know. Maybe it's just the baggage that comes with her, the social media baggage, the actor baggage that comes with Chloë Grace Moretz that kind of makes it a uphill battle to make her fit into the Carrei White character. Like, so you just like she just feels miscast for the role. Well, and maybe I'm not even saying that. It's just like it's a little bit of the makeup and costuming decisions. It's a little bit when you're talking about like this film not doing anything. Yet. I feel like that's kind of what is applied to Carrei. I think that criticism can be applied to the character of Carrei in this film. Just like we'll play it as it's on the paper without actually like making a decision to make her quote-unquote homelier or uglier. These are all big air quotes. No. Yet. I get it. It's just we have to cast a hot act. Hot as in like and it's an it girl, not attractiveness, but just someone who is popular right now. Yet. God, do you feel all the eggshells I'm walking? Yet. No. And I don't think also I don't think it's necessarily wrong to admit that Chloë Grace Moretz, who was 16 when this movie was made, is like conventionally attractive. And that I think the conversation is about here we have someone who is a conventionally attractive actress type playing a girl who's supposed to be a social outcast even though she looks as CW style beautiful as everybody else. Well, I don't yet, I don't feel like I have enough of a grasp over that conversation to engage with it. That's why I kind of want to sidestep it. Yet. I'm not sure what point you're actually trying to make and I'm trying but like I'm like so, is it's not choices she made as and is it's not about appearance, it's about choices she made as an actor in terms of the way she's playing the scenes. Well, I think it's everything surrounding the Carrei character is such a middle-of-the-road choice. Sure. Yes. I think she's a great actress trying to do great things, but there's not a like this is my vision for the character of Carrei. Yet. And so there can't really be a distinctive choice made. They're just playing the plot points that happen throughout the film. Yet. And it feels like all of the big acting is done around her. Yes. Everyone is reacting to the Carrei of it, whereas I am not being drawn in by the character of Carrei. I am drawn in by the theme she's going through and what's happening to her, but I'm very rarely being drawn into her inner life. Okay. Yet. No, that's a great point. I definitely do feel that like she is like in the scenes between her and Julianne Moore, like Julianne Moore is the more interesting one in every scene that they have together. Even though the movie is about Carrei, like I find like Julianne Moore's character has a much more interesting inner life because like she has got I think a clearer vision of what she's doing and the take that she has on that character is kind of like fresh and very like lived in. Yet. And I think that the best example of this is the massacre scene. Yet. Wherein this is the only time I feel comfortable making the comparison to the 76 version. Sure. Which is I'm going to not even talk about the direction of that scene because it's just like so over the top and all over the place, but when __SpaceX has the moment of putting together everything that's happening in that moment. Yet. She breaks like you feel her psyche shatter. Yet. She's stiff. She's moving through the gymnasium like a corpse. Like a corpse bride just bloodied and walking around and like she just turns her head like a almost bird-like and something granted the score just does a psycho hit of like every time she does it but it's a good movie from her performance like there's a choice made and like I sense the sharpness of the shattered psyche that she has. Yes. Compared to this film where when Carrei starts using her powers, it's like they make her into more of a monster. Yet. Her shoulders go up and her hands turn into claws and her eyes kind of widen and she just like, manipulating things with her hands like a witch. Yet. It doesn't work for me at all. And it undoes the kind of the whole drama of it for me because it turns it into a cartoon. It turns it into a superhero. Yet, I think I have yet, Carrei flies. Carrei flies in this film. Yet. And that's stupid. I will admit that is dumb as __, yet, that's pretty dumb. I think that part of this like I had similar problems like the massacre scene at the end which again the whole movie everyone's like okay what do you got for me for the prom night massacre we're all ready for it and it's like oh yeah that's what you got I think that a certain amount of it is and it's unfair for me to bring this into it is coming off of Stranger Things so many years of Stranger Things where another actress with 3 names is a girl with telekinetic powers. And a lot of that is demonstrated by her pointing at a thing with her outstretched hand and concentrating really hard. So, it's like I've already kind of like that card has been thoroughly played and I'm sort of sick of it. Yet, it does just feel and Kimberly Pierce even talked about this in a New York Times interview ahead of the movie's release, how she sees this as sort of a superhero origin story and oh, I don't know. And I look at this now, in 2025 being like, oh, a superhero origin story. Great. And I have to remember that that was probably a more daring take at the time. And that's fine. But she also was saying that in these scenes she didn't want Carrei to look like just a completely cold-blooded, emotionless killer. Specifically, and this is her direct quote, not in a post-Collini, post-Virginia Tech, post-all these campus tragedies world. And you know, and she didn't want people to feel disconnected from Carrei. Like these were sort of like choices she made where she didn't want to get to that level of completely like her psyche has broken that you get in the original movie. I don't think she was very successful in achieving some of these things she said that she's setting out to do. Yeah, agreed. Something that comes up in this interview they did with her is that she's friends with Brian Dielma, and like when the movie was offered to her, she called Brian Dielma and was like, "Should I do this?" And he said, "Yeah, you got to do it. Do it." And they had dinner together a couple times and talked about the making of the movie and what she was doing. And she was saying in the interview that his movie was sort of campy and she wanted to get more inside this girl's journey and inside her bond with her mother. And it's reading this interview, it's okay, I understand that was your intent and I like that intent and I feel like I just don't see that happening in what is here in front of me, which is part of why I feel like the studio had a lot of demands. Yeah. And that's possible. And how do we know? And I realize I'm deflating every conversation we've ever had on this show by saying that at some point we have to engage in wild speculation. That's what a podcast is. Yeah. I'm not going to keep going back to the well of the impossible formula of creating a successful Carrei. And I think just with that in mind alone, what we end up with is the fact that it's not such a complete disaster in my estimation is a small miracle in and of itself. Yeah. Now, okay, let's just talk real zoom in a few places of this massacre scene. Yeah. Because there was a hint of it. The original film in its split screen and what was happening and knowing all Carrei really does in rewatching that she explodes a light and uses a fire hose on people. Really everyone's killing themselves by their panic. Yeah. Being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Yeah. Exploding the light, starts a fire and that creates some havoc as well. But yet, she did start the fire. Her intent, she's not gripping people by the neck and breaking their head, necks open. She's not flipping them apart and yet. Even the teacher who gets killed is killed because of a Rube Goldberg, kind of incident of the what was it, a basketball net or something that swung down and cut her in half. Yeah, basically. Yeah, it falls down off the thing and it flips around and kind of hits her right in the midsection. But Carrei didn't look up at the wire that was holding it and snap it with her brain so that it would kill her. It just was kind of incidental. Yeah. Now what I like about the new movie is she is more active in the massacre. I don't like how it's performed, but it is okay, she is engaging with her vengeance in a way that gives her a little more autonomy and plays a little bit more into what was going on with the rest of the film. Yeah. She's no longer passive in this. And as she exits to the school and she's starting to chase down a Chris and her, boyfriend. Yeah. There's this hint of oh, I wish this was more in the movie. Some other version of this, but there's this heavy metal guitar that comes on the score that's almost like a funeral fugue, It's yeah. As Carrei's just kind of walking down the street and you feel _ is gonna start to happen. That's what's in the trailer and that's what got me initially excited. Yeah. And that I really liked that. But the rest of the movie doesn't support that and it doesn't have other examples of it throughout, which I think is kind of a missed opportunity. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as I remember the trailer that I saw was basically that kind of that sound, the overhead shot of stuff exploding in the city and then one cut to a close-up on her blood-covered face. And I'm cool. Seems like a neat thing. I sure hope I don't watch that 12 years from now and be really mad about it when it disappoints me. Hey, you know what? I got a few just kind of silly things I want to pull out. Just change up the conversation. Yet. Hey, silly things. Yet. Sorry I dark.